G2 are looking to style on OG and send a statement. Undefeated 4-0.
The chase is on. Misfits have taken 3. Misfits, 22 kills to 11. Under 30 minutes have defeated G2. They are the first team to beat G2 in 2020.
Yeah, closer. Goes for the flash kick. They caught him out. What a beautiful setup.
Yeah, Dardoch flashing in. Razzle, look at where the power conversion is. Dunk him into the baby cage and then take the chase.
The flash engage potential. Kiwi can't find the stun, but here comes Dardoch over the top. Is this the fight? Oh! He's gone right away.
Only gonna get out from in the beginning, but the damage is still dealt by the DPS on the back line. A dig. There's the shockwave coming in, but it's Infernum from FBI.
Has the knockup to cancel, but the kick lead from Selfmade denies the unburrow opportunity.
What an absolute monster. Humanoid landed everything.
And Golden Guardians takes down Team Liquid.
It's time for the Rift Rewind.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to our third ever episode of the Rift Rewind, an ESPN League of Legends program. We are live on Twitch, the ESPN app, YouTube, and Twitter. And yes, we come here for great analysis, for thoughts, for breaking news. We will get to that in a little bit later on in the program, but also for the giant overreactions. C9 is winning Worlds. G2 won't make it there. Everything in between, we're here to talk about it. Full cast this week, by the way. We will get to Los Angeles a little bit later on. Emily Rand and Tyler Erzberger are standing by. They will be a part of the program, as will Febiven. He'll be joining us a little bit later on, but let's talk about the gentleman I have here in Bristol, Connecticut. We got D-Quill, Darren Quilinski, who is Mr. Right Predictions. I can't believe I have to say that.
Darren the Contrarian. Stay on brand, please.
You needed theme music and pyro and a crown. We got to get that a little bit later
We'll put a pyro right back here. It definitely won't harm us, though. We'll be okay. Light our hair on fire like Michael Jackson in the Pepsi incident.
And, of course, the creator of the Wolf Bomb himself, Jacob Wolf, back with us this week. You got a lot on your mind as it pertains to League of... Yeah, you see that face? That's the face of a gentleman that has a lot to say.
A couple things.
All right, let's take a look at our LCS standings as they stand right now before Monday Night League. A little bit of movement, definitely not at the top, though. Cloud9 still sitting on Cloud9. They defeated TSM, Play Evil Geniuses tonight. A lot of 4-4 records here, Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like a Jay-Z album at this point, but I'm a little surprised by...
I don't get that one, but...
I'm a little bit surprised to sort of see the Golden Guardians in the middle of the pack, but I mean, we were talking about this before the broadcast. I think that they are the most improved team, if you can give such a title at this point. They are an upward trend, and then we see TSM is sort of, they're in the middle of the road, right? The biggest surprise on this list, though, to me, is Immortals at 5-3, which is a little stunning. I think that
Not me.
We'll see. Okay, well,
why isn't it surprising to you?
Because Smithy knows how to win. I've been saying it for a while.
There's the reason he was the most popular free agent in North America, I guess.
Smithy knows how to win. 3 different
all those
championships
people
on 3 different teams.
As we take a look at the bottom 5, all those people that were saying at free agency that Smithy was the reason that Team Liquid did not get out of groups at Worlds, are they eating their words right now, being that he's one of the best junglers in the LCS?
They should be eating both of his shoes. It was not... No, that was not him at all. IG in their last game target banned him and then picked away one of his better champions in that draft. We went through it together. Like, he was not the problem.
See, I would move Team Liquid to the 9th position there. They already lost. They're 3-5. They should be 9. In my humble opinion, they are the second worst team in the LCS right now with that record. Because Evil Geniuses and 100 Thieves have a chance to improve.
Sure. I agree with that. I mean, the one on this list that is the most stunning to me, because everybody on this team has been very middle of the pack for all their careers, is Counterwatch Gaming. 1-7.
Rebby in the chat says the return of constantly losing gaming. By the way, we are monitoring the chat throughout the entire show. If you got some questions, please feel free to enter them there. But of course, we have to talk about Broxah finally joining Team Liquid. Game 2 was pretty good. Game 1, on the other hand, Immortals, the storyline. It was Broxah, the new jungler, facing Xmithy, the one he replaced on Team Liquid. And, well, at one point, it was a damage lead for Xmithy, 3,160 to 57.
Yeah. That's what happens.
Didn't get any better from there.
That's what happens when you get overhyped and you're jet lagged and you get one day of practice with your team. Like, it was. I'm glad that he got to play. I think we probably should have expected this though, because. Man, traveling from east to west on a plane, especially going to the other side of the continent, that is hard. That is hard. Props to him for getting on the stage.
What I couldn't even figure out, like, it seemed like he literally traveled east to west, got to LA, went and changed clothing at the apartment, and then like immediately went to the practice facility.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Seriously have with
rough.
Team Liquid before this game. Maybe 1-2.
I think
I don't know.
Yeah,
like it wasn't good. And here's the thing is. So, like, yeah, you look at Broxah, 0-3-1 in that first game. Like, a worst debut. No thanks, Mr. Broxah. That's awesome.
Now, with all of this said, though, is it fair to give him a pass for even this week? Is it fair to say, hey, cool the Jets, let's wait for week 5 to pass real judgments on Broxah and Team Liquid?
Yeah, he's out of practice, right? Like, he's not been able to play with like a full team in quite a while to the level that he was when he was on Fnatic. So yes, I do give him a little bit of a pass. I also don't think that he's the problem with Team Liquid. I think that they have various different other problems around the entire team. I would not put all the blame on him, nor Surefire before him. So I don't know. I would give him a little bit of a pass.
It absolutely was not all Surefire at all. We talked about it last week where they weren't drafting correctly around him and helping cover up some of those mistakes.
Yeah.
But here's where I think one of the problems lies. I did a little bit of looking, deep diving into there. Could it be Doublelift? He's not having a great split. Before that CLG game, he was 16, 15, and 11. And now, after the CLG game where he went 7-0 and 4, I believe, 2.9 KDA, 22.7% death percentage. That's the highest among AD carries.
Okay.
373 DPM is second to last, but he's getting 27% of his team's gold share. That's the most on his team, and he's not being able to convert that into substantial leads or something that.
But that's not new, right? That's not new at all. Like, Doublelift has always, his entire career has played, even when he was on CLG, like, his entire career has been, he is the funnel, right? And that was a little bit less the case on
Right,
PSM.
but he's not doing anything with it.
Right,
I think
you're right,
that might have
right.
been a jungle problem, and I think with Broxah, you saw that Broxah helped open up that map with pressure elsewhere when he was playing the Sejuani game. And I think that that's going to help unlock a Doublelift and get him back up to a better spot.
First player tokens in the chat says Doublelift is trash, LOL. I don't know if I would go that far, but Senna's not really helping case here.
No. And the Kalista pick in that first game with Broxah was interesting. You don't see Kalista often. There wasn't really anyone that he could like ult for a really good impact on that. The Tarek pick they didn't really utilize to its full potential. And again, Broxah was just off his game on that one. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of upswing, if any, and I do predict that there will be some sort of upswing for Doublelift as Broxah gets more online and helps unlock that map and puts pressure elsewhere on other teams.
I definitely think Team Liquid should be the most thankful the fact that the format has changed in the LCS and that they are looking at right now the fact that like MSI and championship points don't necessarily have the impact overall that they did because the championship points got removed from Spring. And so I think they have a little bit of time. I think that it's going to take them bigger than just in plug and playing Broxah in for Surefire to fix the problems, to your point, Darren. And I think around the map.
This right here, this matchup for me was the most needed matchup for Team Liquid from a confidence perspective. Because
Against
now
CLG.
Broxah has a win.
Yeah.
Yes, Team Liquid defeating CLG here. Yeah, a lot of people are saying CLG is a dead team. Understood, get it.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, and as we take a look at the KDA in week 4 for Team Liquid here, from a confidence perspective, from a team synergy perspective, Broxah getting that victory in the first week after what happened with Immortals is crucial to the mindset, is crucial to confidence.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's kind of like beating up the weakest kid on the playground there for that quick win, but I don't necessarily think. Yes, it's a confidence booster, but how much confidence are you going to get out of beating that 1-7 or 1-6 at that point, CLG?
So that's enough about us talking about Broxah. Let's hear from Broxah himself. This is after the victory over CLG.
A lot of fans happy to see you here in North America. How are you feeling after that first win?
I feel really happy winning this game. Yesterday wasn't the start I had hoped for. It was a bit of a rough one, but today we played really well, and yeah, I'm just happy that we actually turned it around already.
Was there anything between yesterday and today that if you feel like made the difference, or was the whole team just kind of ready to reset and have a different game?
I'm not sure. I think generally yesterday just went wrong really early. I made a mistake level 3, and it was really, really hard for me personally to come back after that. But today I figured it's time to play a little slower, just take it one step at a time. No need to do anything fancy or risky. And eventually we just played so well as a team and managed to close it out.
And you did tell me that practice has been rough. You started scrims 2.5 hours after landing here in North America. Did you ever consider just taking a break, or you're like, I want to get to practice?
Well, shortly after I landed, I was asked whether I wanted to play scrims or not, and I figured I might as well just jump into it straight away and get as much practice in as possible before going on stage. And yeah, it has been a bit busy for me these first days here in LA, and I've been playing a lot. I haven't slept much because of jet lag, but I'm just excited to be here.
Provisional in the chat says, look how exhausted he looks. And he had the choice. He could have sat out if he wanted to, but he's a warrior, right? He's a competitor. He wanted to play. So
that's the pressure,
you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my point here, is like the pressure of coming into this situation where you've been absent for things completely out of your control, and like your team has not been playing very well in your absence, right? And also he is replacing someone, to our point about Xmithy earlier, like he's replacing someone who is highly, highly regarded. May have been blamed for whatever happened against IG at Worlds, but I think overall, like Xmithy was touted as one of the best junglers in North America, the one that one of the best that the region has ever produced, and you know, overall, like it kind of sucks that Broxah came into this situation on very short notice, and yeah, I mean, respect to him for trying, but overall, it's pretty difficult. On the screen, you do see, again, the highlights between Team Liquid and Immortals. Of course, Immortals victorious there. But to tie a bow on this subject before we move on to another team, I want to just ask about Surefire. From what you saw so far this split, and a lot of times he might have gotten blamed rightfully, wrongfully, whatever it is, do you feel, after seeing what you saw from him, that he might be ready in the future for an LCS spot? Darren, what do you think?
Sub him out for Greg on Dignitas. I mean, man,
if only
something.
If only that was simple,
no, I
right?
mean, I have different thoughts on Dignitas and what they should do around that, because, man, they started out hot and now they're floundering. But Surefire, it's a good question, and I think that he did the best with what he had. He stepped into a very, very difficult situation, probably almost more difficult than what Broxah had stepped in. I mean, those shoes, not only are you filling in for the now departed Xmithy, who was arguably the best jungler in North America, but now you need to hold the line for arguably one of the best junglers from the LEC. That's a lot of pressure, and I give him a lot of props for stepping up and doing what he did with what he had to work with. And, you know, I think someone could benefit from having Surefire on their team.
Yeah, I agree. I also, like, I've been a big fan of Surefire to watch him play for many, many years. Him playing in Oceania, him trying to come to North America a number of times. The biggest thing, though, is exactly what I just said. He is an import jungler, and there's not a lot of room for those. Places like Dignitas, that room does not exist because they use those 2 import slots on Hootie and Froggen. So while I do think Surefire maybe deserves a different chance and a different look sometime in the future, it's kind of unfortunate because jungler imports are not very common, and the teams that do it are ones like his own, Team Liquid.
All right, let's move on to TSM. They were riding high going into this weekend on a 4-game win streak. Didn't last. 0-2 on the weekend. TSM did not have the best week 4. What do you attribute that to, Jacob?
I mean, I still think that they're lacking a little bit of an identity, right? They made a lot of changes. Bjergsen and Broken Blade are the guys that stayed around, and Bjergsen is the identity of TSM, aptly named Team Solo Mid. But I think that they still don't quite understand the type of team that they are, and that seemed like that was the case this weekend as well. And that was the case prior to them getting a little bit of a hot streak as well. I felt that way when they started the season.
Yeah, I thought that there were some interesting decisions that they made. They definitely did not fight very well around neutral objectives. There was one map, the match against Cloud9. It was a 4v3 in front of the Baron pit right before Bjergsen dives in as Renekton. He didn't have the backup there quite yet. It might have been a miscommunication, but it was a 4v3 and Cloud9 was just like, all right, we'll take this free kill. And then a little bit later on, they fight around the Rift Herald again, and TSM's trying to get it. Cloud9 just kites them back and wins the team fight. And then from there, it was just really, really strange stuff. You know, it was 4 dragons for Cloud9 to none, 1 tower, 1 Rift Herald, and no Baron.
As we're taking a look at TSM's KDA in week 4.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I don't know. Their fights around neutral objectives were not clean. And I think that either it's decision making, team comps, whatever it may be, it was really, really strange. Against FlyQuest, it was really tough to watch because they had a heavy 80 damage comp. And Viper just built armor. He built thorn mails and a couple of other armor items, and they couldn't kill him. He was just a frontliner. They had so long extended team fights in that fight, or in that match, a TSM FlyQuest match, that they, of course, the longer the game went on, the more it benefited FlyQuest. They could just build up defenses. They could wait for the team fights that they needed, and that's exactly what you saw. And eventually, those extended team fights turned into wins for FlyQuest, and they clawed back in, and they won.
Now, I was very surprised, by the way, on the Renekton pick. It didn't make a lot of sense to me in the moment. Like, maybe if you're picking something like, that would be something I would pick in solo queue in the odd event that, like, I had an AP top laner and we were a little bit AP heavy and needed something and I'm playing mid. But, like, I don't know. It was confusing to me nonetheless. It seemed like it was sort of a decision that was made rashly. Not that, like, he was the biggest problem. I do want to give slight love to Broken Blade. I think he was highly criticized in the offseason. A lot of people called for him to be replaced. I was constantly getting questions from fans. Is he out? What's the deal? But, like, he seems to be one of the most consistent members in TSM this split so far. I do think that he is. I mean, even across the 2 games they lost, he went even or positive, right? Like, for him, like, he's playing fairly consistently.
Yeah, I think you can never really point to Broken Blade as the singular reason TSM loses a matchup in this split.
I don't necessarily think there is one singular reason. I don't think there's a singular player that has a problem that needs addressing. I really do think that the team is strong overall, both on paper and is looking better overall. But this last weekend was definitely a step backwards for a team that we thought was moving forward and off in the right direction.
Lunar Wolf in the chat says BB is their best player. Meanwhile, Cyro Fredson says, does Dardoch get another chance if this TSM team doesn't work?
I think it depends on why it doesn't work. If it comes out that Dardoch is flaming in the same sort of scenarios that he did in Team Liquid, where he was super aggressive towards teammates and coaches, no, he does not get another chance. If it comes out that it just like TSM is just disjointed in general and it's not a personality thing, it's just like players are not meshing well together on the Rift, then yeah, I do think he gets another chance. It's really, the biggest question I think is, for me, has always been, how will he behave? I have not heard anything quite negative on that front yet, and but if it does come out that he's acting with the ways of his past, then no, he does not get another shot. But I think for now, like, it's more of TSM overall, not Dardoch individually.
So it's interesting, right? TSM was a team that we were identifying as one of the top 3 teams, and they may still be to some people, even though they regressed a little in week 4. A team that we definitely were not talking about at the top of the tables, who have really improved over the course of 4 weeks, is Golden Guardians. And we're going to send it over to Los Angeles now to Emily Rand and to Tyler Erzberger to break down exactly why Golden Guardians looked so amazing. Take it away, Emily. Let's start with you.
Thank you, Arda. Welcome. So actually, it's kind of interesting. I had the chance to talk to GGS before the season, and we put them 12th, if I remember correctly, or 10th, rather. Everyone put them in the bottom of the standings.
Because they made Keith be a support.
No, I know. It's been pretty interesting seeing their progression over the past few weeks. I want to bring up something that they kind of brought up on broadcast, which is hot take regarding Keith swapping to support. And it was kind of a jokey, like, FBI is holding Keith back because of these things. I don't think that's true, but I do think that Keith has looked a lot better on engaged supports, right? Like, he's 2-1 on Thresh, he is undefeated on the Nautilus, and he is winless on Tahm Kench. And Tahm Kench is one of those champions that you have to have a really good understanding of, like, when to save your teammate, you're playing the map. And I've been really pleasantly surprised by Keith when he is on these champions that just requires kind of a mechanical playmaking ability. I think he looks a lot more comfortable. I know people were really, really dragging him before this first week, but I do think on some of these engaged champions, he's looked a lot better. What do you think of specifically the GGS bot lane?
When it comes to Keith, it's really, really interesting, right? As you said, when it comes to the aggressive playmaking champions, he's good at it. he's actually had some really nice roams mid lane. His hooks have been on point. Very, very impressive play when he's out of the Tahm Kench, which you learn from experience. Tahm Kench is much more of a champion that you have to learn, and you know the map better, and you know how to play support better, knowing where to go to protect your AD carry at all times. Where for Thresh, you just throw hook, you flay, like it's a lot more just instinct based. And I talked to Golden Glue this weekend after a win, and I was like, how is Keith, dealing with all this criticism, right? Because he got a lot of hate, including from us. We've made fun of him. Maybe not you.
I was like, I didn't.
Not you, Emily. Jacob Wolf out there in Bristol had some very dumpster words for Keith after his first three performances.
That's not very nice.
But the thing was, Golden Glue was like, the reason why Keith has been, improving is because that's what they tell Keith in practice. When Keith runs it down, when Keith plays poorly, they give it to him, and he takes it and he laughs at it. He has a really good mental fortitude. And you need that when you are in a new position that you've never played before. You got it randomly, you flown to Korea to practice it for a few weeks, and then come back and play on stage. You have to have that mental fortitude, and I really, really appreciate that about Keith, because I don't think a lot of players could take the amount of hatred that he got the first 2 weeks of everyone saying he needs to be kicked, he needs to go to the academy. I mean, who he was in academy, it would have been a very easy switch, but he stuck to his guns. His teammates rallied behind him, said, hey, when you mess up, we're going to tell you, but we're also going to lift you up when you do well. And I think that's what he's been doing these last 2 weeks where he's really improved. So bot lane, FBI looks better. Aphelios, broken champion. But I really like what we're seeing from Keith, and I hope that as the season goes along, he can learn more about the position, and his Tahm Kench isn't, a dumpster fire.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we absolutely have to talk about is the mid jungle, right? Because, whatever you think of Golden Glue, I think one thing that's improved thus far across their kind of slight rise over the past few weeks, and again, we need to keep this fairly tempered because they faced a TL that was basically at its lowest point, maybe.
Yeah.
I would actually still consider that their lowest point rather than their first game with Broxah, because again, that has a lot of extenuating circumstances around it. CLG, which is the last place team, and Dignitas. However, I do want to bring up Closer, because coming over, people were like, this guy is amazing. How is he going to do in North America? He really wanted to come here as opposed to playing with the LEC offers he got, because he felt like he can go and play on a bottom tier LEC team, or he can try to make something with Golden Guardians, despite the fact that, again, people were really, really flaming this roster at the beginning of the split. I've been really impressed with Closer, and I've really enjoyed watching him play and kind of watching him learn. I don't think he's been peerless. I think he's a young jungler with a lot of really strong mechanics.
I agree. I think Closer has shown that he is ready for the big time, and I think it's the partnership between him and Golden Glue. The chemistry on the team is really, really good. They have a really good synergy, and when they lose, they laugh about it. When they win, they grow stronger. Now let's go back to Bristol, where Jacob's probably going to make fun of Keith some more.
Wow. Jacob, how could you?
Before that, to Closer, I will say tebrikler, başarılar dilerim. He knows what I'm talking about. You don't need to know, okay? You got something
Secret messages.
No, I was just going to say, I will concede that Keith deserves a little bit of love after this past week. And overall, has improved, right? But I do think that, I still point to him as probably the weakest link on the Golden Guardians team. I thought that Hanser did quite well this week, actually, and Hanser is someone that we've seen over the years can play at the highest level. Obviously, he was on a very good TSM team once upon a time. So I will give Keith some love, but I do think that I was most impressed probably by people that saw my Twitter, by FBI. FBI open up. That was he opened up the game for sure.
He definitely opened it up on what Tyler said was the broken champion right now of Aphelios, which is very true. A mechanically intensive champion where you got to manage all the different weapons that you have. But at the same time, I do want to shout out Keith as well. We were ripping on him for the first few weeks, and he has steadily improved, and they found a good niche for him at FBI to open up that bot lane. So I am pleasantly surprised, and watching Golden Guardians live up to what on paper this looked like a decent roster. And at 4-4, they can only go up.
We are monitoring the chat, by the way. Please message us throughout the show. We will get to all of your questions. No, you have not missed the news that is coming up a little bit later on in the program. I will say, chat, all of you so far are wrong. That's all I'm going to say. Let's move on to this week in Cloud9. Of course, they are still undefeated. We're going to get to Monday Night League predictions and thoughts in a little bit. But how good have Cloud9? Speaking of surprises, nobody predicted that at this point they would be undefeated and the only undefeated team. You thought so? You go into your time machine and you go back to Jacob of a few weeks ago and you say, "Yep, I was totally right." I don't think so, man.
Okay,
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, with Licorice as the most veteran player on that team, I mean, it could have been like a TSM Cloud9.
He's not the most veteran player on the team. That is Vin. That is Vin. AD carry.
The longest tenured on Cloud9. Right?
On Cloud9, yes. But in terms of overall, Sven is the most veteran player on this team. No. In my defense, I did not think they would be undefeated.
Fair enough.
However.
Yes.
However.
Yes.
Right? Big however here. I got a lot of flame for saying that this team improved with the bot lane change. And, oh, did they? Oh, my goodness. I was stunned by how on the same page that Vulcan and Sven looked. Look, I know these guys were putting hundreds of hours into solo queue in South Korea. It clearly showed. These guys looked like they've been playing together for years. That was one hell of a Tom Kinch from Vulcan.
Vulcan looks really good this.
That synergy, man. There were times that I was like, oh man, because obviously Sven has gotten a reputation this split for being deathless at a lot of the times, right? Like he doesn't die a lot. Right. I'm not saying overall, but I'm saying
tonight he's gonna die a lot, but yeah.
Sven, by the way, has set the record through week 3 for the highest KDA at 7. He came into this week at 72. The highest before that was Pobelter at 22.
And
so he obliterated the record for the LCS.
To that point, we got to give a little bit of credit for that to Vulcan because there were times that I was like, oh no, Sven's dead, and then I was like, wait a second, he's got 100 health and he's sitting behind everyone.
Behind every great AD carry is another great support.
Yeah, 100%. exactly. But
Vulcan, behind every great running back is a great offensive line.
Flashy has a good point in chat. Chat, let us know if Sven will die tonight.
4 times.
Will Sven die tonight? And
4.
If so, predict a number.
4.
Yeah, I mean, I just think overall, though, those two seem to get it together. And that was something I heard a lot. I did a piece a couple weeks ago where I talked to people involved with Cloud9, Dignitas, and Evil Geniuses about what it took to get Vulcan and to make the changes within Cloud9. And Jack Etienne said to me, he's like, I was looking for players that are really committed to this game. And clearly, those guys in the practice that they put in South Korea and boot camp, it's showing that they are on the same page. They are probably the best bot lane in the LCS. And fans, Reddit, you owe me a little bit of an apology for flaming.
Yeah, Reddit apologizes. Good luck on that one.
Yeah, I've been down that road.
But good luck to Sven, who with 2 games at the pace he's at, by the way, he adds 12 to his KDA on average this split. He would break Chovy's record at 104. That's after a week, by the way, not in the middle of a series. Let's move on to the LEC. Not much to talk about in Europe this week, really.
No, it was really quiet.
Yeah, really relatively quiet. Let's take a look at the standings here. You're going to be very not surprised by what you're going to see here on the standings in the LEC, except if you're a G2 fan, because things didn't go so well for G2. Let's take a look at the standings right now. They're going to come on screen. You're going to see them in a second. No, we don't have the standings, in fact. But all you need to know is that G2 didn't do well. They lost to Misfits. They lost to Schalke. It was not a good weekend for G2 at all. Why did G2 have such a horrible week, Jacob?
I was gonna raise my hand because I had the.
Fine, Darren, start. Go ahead.
No, I mean it was basically a 3v5 in that first game against Misfits. The Wonder Sona pick ended up not working out at all. Caps, or his alter ego, the negative alter ego of Craps, showed up to play with 4 deaths before 10 minutes and 7 deaths before 15. They just picked on him.
9-4, baby.
Yeah, it was not good. And the thing is the later the game goes, the better it is for G2. So, I mean, you're still going to dish out damage if you have a ton of items. That doesn't really matter. But here's the thing. G2 was good enough to still scrap with Misfits for a little bit before the game actually kind of imploded all in their face. There was one specific moment that actually saved us. It was actually right here. That play right there that you're seeing on your screen where Bavoy dodged the barrel with his Featherstorm. He dodged that barrel and Misfits ended up winning that fight and turning their 3,000 gold lead into a 6,000 gold lead. That's where the game opened up right there. So there was some mechanically impressive moves made by Misfits. They were playing really high
And there's
caliber.
Razork versus G2.
And
Look at those numbers.
Razork's Echo combined with Dan's set with the parallel convergence into the showstopper for the what a play. I loved watching them. That was so
some
good.
love. Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, Misfits started this game off really sloppy. Razork made a dive on bot lane that went the opposite direction in the way that it was supposed to be executed. But Misfits was on it in the mid game, and that was on the back of Razork. Dinnick as well. Also, the two rookies on this team are very, very good. They deserve tons of praise, both in the running, in my opinion, for Rookie of the Split for the LEC. And overall, like, I think that, like, ban Echo. You need to ban Echo against him.
I wouldn't say that, not yet. That's only one game.
Well, he plays it a lot in solo queue, and he's pretty well regarded for it there too. So this was a little bit predictable because he thrashes people on it in solo queue.
Maybe.
But I will say my overall thought on G2 on the weekend was that Misfits beat them fair and square, and that they beat themselves a little bit against Schalke. And I don't want to detract from Schalke. I know they're going through some stuff with Lurox and with Inax coming in place of Gilius and Febiven. So they do deserve a little bit of credit for trying to improve. But I did feel that the Misfits game was them truly losing to Misfits, who was playing better.
Yep.
Schalke, like, there were just some really stupid mistakes that were coming back to back.
And a little bit later on, we're going to get to Tyler and Emily, and they will dissect G2 and their challenges in this week. But let's focus on Misfits, because we got to give them credit, right? They were the ones to dethrone G2's undefeated season so far in this split, in this split, I should say. But also, why don't we identify some of the things, some of the positives that you saw all weekend long as it pertains to Misfits?
Yeah, Razork and Dinnick. Those are the ones I point to. Everybody on this team has played well, but those two in particular, considering their rookies, considering like,
but you also have that veteran leadership of Febiven in the mid lane. And here's what I really like about Febiven. He leads the LEC mid laners with a 5.7 KDA right now. He's playing solid mid lane, and when he's on a playmaker like LeBlanc, Diana, Kiana, or Azir, champions he's won on, he's doing really well. Don't put him on an Orianna. Keep him on mobile playmakers and see how far you can go with this Misfits team. I really think that a Misfits group that is more proactive with an Echo jungle or a Diana mid or a Xayah late game hyper carry for Bavoy, I think that's a much stronger Misfits overall, and then to one of the reasons you're seeing a lot of success of them in the LEC.
One thing I will mention is the matchup G2 had against Misfits. Misfits was a much more dominating win than Schalke was. Schalke was just an absolute bloodbath on both sides. But Misfits, G2 was left with 0 Barons and 0 Dragons in that game. So it was a decisive victory for Misfits.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it was one where Misfits felt like they were throwing away the game early and then kind of scaled back in that mid game and the mid to late game before they ended the game. But G2 is this team that is known for being very strong very early. Obviously, Jankos has the First Blood King name for a reason because he's very good in playing on aggressive.
Also got 2,500 assists this weekend as well.
Yes, he did, even though it was a little messed up on broadcast, which was kind of funny.
It's at 24.99 plus 1.
Well, it's because they did it wrong the first time and they had to go back and circle back. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, like, the thing is Misfits seems like they're on the ball. They seems like they're rolling, which is particularly interesting. And when Febiven joins us later on, I will be interested to ask these questions.
Yes.
Because Dan and him were the only players that got a chance towards the end of the year last year. And now with some changes that a lot of people criticized, like everybody, like I think Tyler said at one point, like was describing every LEC team in one word and said Misfits, who was his word, like who question mark. And clearly like, these guys, B-Boy obviously like has been criticized too. He was mediocre in Brazil. He's a South Korean player that played in CBLOL at some point. But yeah, I mean, overall, like Razork and Dinnick deserve a lot of praise because I think they are playing well, and they're two of the best rookies in the LEC by a country mile.
So from the success of Misfits, and yes, we are endeavoring to bring you Febiven. We hopefully will get to that a little bit later on. But let's go to Los Angeles right now. Emily and Tyler, a tweet from Perks after this weekend. O2 week will need a lot of subs to make me happy pursuing my streaming career. Ha ha, lol, lol, lol. But when you dissect G2's weekend, what strikes you the most? Emily, let's start with you.
So yeah, I think G2, the first game that they had against Misfits, I'm going to say it was a little bit more of Misfits ending up playing better. I think they touched upon this earlier with Razork, his signature jungle echo pick, I think they had a better understanding of what they wanted to do. It was also G2's first time bringing out top lane Sona, which relies on a lot of the same things that top lane Soraka does with, I won't say abusing support items, but the state of support items and the state of healing allows her to get away with similar things that Sona does. But Sona is a bit more tankier. She can withstand a lot more lane pressure where she just kind of farms under turret. Sona is significantly squishier. So I think they definitely saw that in execution. What I really want to talk about with you, though, is the Schalke No Fear game, because this is Schalke's first win. It is G2's second loss on the week. And I'm looking at this game, and for me, it comes down to, well, first of all, they have that botched turret dive really early. But that is fine, actually, because Caps resets the wave in bot. And so you have a game state where the wave is actually set up for G2 and bot. It's kind of set up for them in mid. And Perkz actually, like, sends Cassiopeia back. And then he tries to kill her anyway, and Inax TP's in. And now I want to give credit to Inax, because that was a great play from him. He recognizes that he can go in, he has Sheen, he can burst Perkz down before Perkz can do anything. But that, for me, is where I saw G2 kind of overreaching in certain situations I'm not used to seeing them do.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at their record last week, I mean, Caps broke a record this weekend, so congratulations to Caps. He died 9 times. I believe in like 8 of those were before the 15th minute mark, making it like the first time in LEC history, including
I think it was 7, yeah. It was pretty nuts.
But I think the thing that people are gonna look at this and kind of focus on is Caps, right? Like, was it a mistake? Is it time to move back to, Perkz AD, Caps mid? Was it a giant mistake? Is it all over? Do we need to freak out? What's your take from this? Obviously, I think is that anyone who freaks out about this weekend doesn't know G2. I think G2 will be fine. G2 knows that they can play around. It wasn't a great weekend. They were outplayed versus Misfits and Schalke, especially Schalke is a game where they're going to want to have back. But this is a team where it is spring. There's no championship points. Everything is looking towards summer. For G2 and every other team, it's ramping up until that point. So anyone who wants Caps to go back into mid lane, Perkz to the bottom lane, I think it's quite silly. I think it's really, really just, you're just pushing the wagon before the horse. I mean, this team needs time to gel. And for Caps, who's looked very good the previous weeks in AD, he needs more time in the position. It was the same thing as Perkz. Perkz had some amazing early weekends as an AD carry, and then there were weekends where he fed. And I think it's going to be the same thing as Caps, and we're not going to see Caps' full potential as an AD until later in 2020, maybe not even until Worlds.
So I think you see a lot of, that's kind of the reason why I wanted to bring up that bottom lane state, right? Because you see a lot of things from Caps where he obviously knows how to punish, right? Like, ideally, if Perkz doesn't go for that kill and just settles for the back, they have mid and bot set, where they have a state where, Inax is going to lose a ton of farm despite the early kill. He's not going to be TPing mid because of the way that Perkz will have backed off and not gone for the kill. And I'm not blaming this on Perkz. I'm saying a lot of these come down to really minute places in the game where they're overreaching, and I don't think it's a Caps versus Perkz thing. Yeah. I actually kind of want to continue my hot take that they're going to be even better than last year with Caps in the bot lane and Perkz in the mid lane. I think people might look at me like I'm insane now after that one Caps performance that everyone is kind of going to harp on, where he just kind of keeps overreaching and doesn't really know the limits on Aphelios. And you also have,
right?
Well, I mean, also, I think Mickey, for me, always deserves, a ton of credit for kind of bringing up both of these players in the bottom lane, actually. But again, you saw a few instances from him that aren't even just from this week, but previous weeks where he had some kind of overreaching in places. I think G2 will, quite easily actually be able to recover because, again, throughout this entire game, I guess I would say especially in the Schalke game, I think you see that they really know what to do, and it comes down to these really, really small, misexecuted things. I do say that they had multiple misexecuted dives this past week too.
How much can we take this from Schalke though? Going from G2 to Schalke, is this a revival of Schalke? Obviously, they had the Febiven drama. Febiven stepped down randomly through a tweet because they weren't working hard enough to placate him, and he kind of quit, kind of not, and there was a firestorm about that. Had to bring in a sub. How much credit do you give Schalke for their victory, and do you think this is the start of a comeback for them?
I mean, I think Schalke still has a lot of things to work on in terms of just macro things, early pathing, that kind of thing. One thing I do think, though, that I want to take a look at for that Inox TP, right? Like, do you see Febiven going for that play?
No.
So I think that's where you have you bring in some of the younger players who have been performing really, really well elsewhere, and you give them a shot on the LEC stage, and you get things like this where it's not perfect. They're gonna mess up. They're gonna make just as many mistakes as G2. But in the end of the day, you will see them going for some of these plays that you might not see Febiven going for, right? And that affected the entire early state of the game in that one game. Because if that doesn't happen, then G2 has everything set up in mid. They have everything set up in bot. They get both heralds in that game. They still get both heralds in the game, and they should be able to just close it out come mid game. So I really liked what I saw from Schalke No Fear in that game specifically, because I saw young players going for plays that I might not necessarily see other players go for.
And let's get back to Bristol to hear Jacob's thoughts and Darren's and Arda's, and oh my.
Oh my, indeed. Let's actually, before we get to that, Darren, you had a small point to make?
No, I was completely wanted to double down on what Emilio just said, where you wouldn't see Febiven making that sort of TP play in the mid lane.
You wouldn't see Febiven playing Ezreal most likely either, but...
The really cool thing that I saw Schalke do was utilize those TPs under the 10-minute mark. They did it twice, where they kept up with the Yankos on his rotations in mid lane and top lane, and because of that, they were able to turn around some aggressive plays that Yankos was trying to pull off, and it gave them the few early kills and a little bit of momentum for them to work with. And I thought that was really, really awesome to see, and gives me hope that this team is going to gel, have some fun, and look, they probably won't be a playoff team, but we'll see if they can have some fun along the split, and we'll have some fun games to watch overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I saw in this game is exactly what you said, is Jankos played super aggressive. There was actually a time where he nearly died to Abadage in mid lane because he was overextended, and he lived with a sliver of health, right? And also, I didn't understand the way G2 played against Cassiopeia in quite the way that they did. There was some times that they would try to circle a certain wall, and Abadage is just right there. All he has to do is open up.
Yeah, they round warp into Abadage, and he just turned and triple stunned
right next to Krugs, and he turned around and he just opened
really
with Cassiopeia.
And so I don't know. It turned into
it
turned into Schalke just barreling it down mid lane when they got Baron and Dragons, while Perks was trying to split side lanes and take inhibitors. It turned into a clown fiesta a little bit. Right. But Schalke knew their win condition. Let's bowl up, get objectives, find a way to go down.
Well, before it was Schalke who defeated G2, Misfits did so first, handing G2 their first loss this split in the LEC. Here is a tweet from Febiven, mid laner, for Misfits. We'll show you in just a second here. Oh, there's no tweet, pardon me. You just heard that from our production crew. But we do have Febiven joining us here on Rift Rewind, our ESPN League of Legends show. There he is, Febiven, mid laner for Misfits. Very happy after this weekend, including defeating G2. Let's start right there, Febiven. I mean, it was a very impressive matchup, absolutely dominant from Misfits. But really, just take us into the moment where you knew you won, where you took the Nexus. How did that feel to unseat G2 from their undefeated season like that?
Felt pretty good, I must say. I think my team played pretty well, so I was kind of surprising. I don't think they played that well, but I guess my team smurfed on them, so.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because the statistics say otherwise, right? I mean, they didn't have any Barons, no Dragons. It looked like a dominant performance from the spectator end, but why do you say it wasn't necessarily a great performance within the team?
No, I mean, I think it was a good performance, but it was still kind of sloppy, you know. I feel like with the lead we had, we should have been able to close out the game way cleaner, but obviously G2 is a team that never, always keeps fighting, you know, so it was difficult even when we were ahead. Usually when you get ahead, you can snowball pretty cleanly against like the other teams, that are a little bit worse. But G2 is like really good at defending. But I think that game they actually like Caps completely ran it down. If he actually defended better, I think maybe it would have been way closer.
How surprised were you and the team with the Sona top pick selection?
I mean, my top lane was like begging for them to not to pick it, because he doesn't have any experience against it, and neither do we as a team. But I mean, I don't know. It feels like it's pretty trash, to be honest, and he didn't do anything, so he kind of handed the win to us.
I do want to ask, and obviously you play mid and not AD carry, support, or jungle, but there was an early dive from Razork in which he died. What was there sort of a feeling around the team that you all had to play aggressive early against G2, and that was why some of those sloppy decisions early in the game were being made?
I mean, not really. I mean, we are kind of an aggressive team, like by nature, and obviously we know that we have to fight early game, because if we don't fight early game, we're probably not going to beat them mid-late game, right? Because of the experience that they have. But I think our picks allowed us to play aggressive, and we did what we had to do,
Febiven, your match against Vitality, walk us through that, because that's obviously a different, opposite end of the spectrum. G2 is on the top of the standings, Vitality is near the bottom. What did you think about that matchup? And talk a little bit about the rookies that you play with and the kind of role that you have in guiding them through matches like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, obviously I need to calm some people down after one against G2, because people get really excited and some people weren't even able to sleep, but it was like just another match for me, I had to make sure the guys were going in with a fresh mindset. It's without thinking about what happened the day before, and if we were well prepared, and if we just played our game, we would win that one, because obviously Vitality is really struggling and our baseline is way higher than theirs. And yeah, I feel like it's kind of my job to make sure that those kind of big wins don't get to my teammates' heads, and obviously I have to take care of myself as well, but that's like the main priority on playing as weaker teams and like better teams.
You said something very interesting there, needing to calm down your teammates after such an impressive victory, right? Can you just take us into the locker room afterwards? Like, what was the mood like? What were some of the things that were said? How long did you allow the team to sort of relish in the moment before you said, okay, now's the time we got to worry about tomorrow?
I mean, obviously, everyone is really happy after we won. I think it was kind of confusing to me, because I felt like personally I didn't have the best game, but my teammates played really well, and I actually didn't know what was happening in the game because everything went so fast, and all of a sudden Caps had like 8 deaths, so I had to kind of let the game sink in for the night, and then the next day I could come in and be more like, I had to use a little bit of reflection time of the game, but I was coming in fresh the next game.
So I want to ask this. Febiven, last year you were on this Misfits team that was predicted to be a super team, right? You had Soaz, you had yourself, you had Maxlor and Gorilla. You guys were supposed to be it. You were supposed to be one of the best teams. And by midseason, almost all of you were benched. You and Dan are the remaining pieces of the team that played throughout some part of last season. And you're playing with people like Razork and Dardoch, who fans at large may not be familiar with. Obviously, people familiar with like the academy and sort of tier 2 scene in Europe are big fans of. But we saw both of them, Razork and Dardoch, perform really well this weekend. I want to ask though, what is the biggest difference from Misfits in 2019 to Misfits in 2020 so far?
I think it's the drive and the passion the players have for the game. I think everyone is really willing, everyone is really open this year to like sacrificing and like really trying to understand what it takes, because it's not easy, and the weeks are full of stress. You play against really good opponents, especially when you're a new team. I think it's always hard when you start out with a new team, but I feel like just the coaching staff and the willingness of the players to work smart and hard is really paying off, at least in the first weeks. But that doesn't mean that we will keep winning. It's like every day is a new day, and every week is a new opponent, you know. So, yeah.
Febiven, let's end on this before we let you go. Now atop the table, tied at first there, are Misfits. How winnable is this split for Misfits?
How winnable? I mean, it all depends, right? I think it's definitely winnable. I can see us winning it. It all comes down to, you know, how do we take the wins and the losses? Because right now it's easy to get complacent and be like, okay, guys, you know, we get a lot of praise. Everyone is hyping us up, kind of defying the expectations, right? But I think it just depends how do we move forward from here. Because honestly, going 6-2 in regular split is really whatever for me. Like, I went 18-0 before, and I know how that feels. I've also lost many times before, so I kind of have an idea how I want to go forward with my team and make sure we do well in playoffs. And you know,
highs and lows for sure. Definitely a high for Misfits right now. Febiven, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Let's take a look at the LEC standings. By the way, Chad is flaming me for saying locker room. Okay, sorry for bringing in a traditional sports term. Oh boy, slap the wrist. I'm so sorry. Here are the standings. Take a look at those three teams.
Locker room. I'll call it. You know what? I'm on your side. It's a locker room. It's where they go.
Whatever. After the game, deal with it, chat. Top three teams. Take a look at those 6-2 records, Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, we predicted that Origin and G2 would be among this. I think same with Rogue, right? The overperformers in the top part of this is definitely Misfits, who I think people consider will be middle to lower in the pack among the LEC teams. And Mad Lions, right? I got a little bit of flame because Evil Jacob Wolf, if you're in chat, you got me flamed by the head of Overactive Media who owned Mad Lions. So he said that I power ranked them low, and it was not my ranking with Evil Jacob Wolf's. Nonetheless, Misfits and Mad Lions both overperforming, both very young teams, right? We have Razork and Dinnick on Misfits, and we have almost all of Mad Lions.
Take a look at the bottom 5 teams here.
But the bottom 5 teams are, honestly, I thought Vitality would be better. I thought Schalke would be all right. Obviously, they've had a bunch of issues. For the Febiven tweet, he was very aggressive about his team and sort of blamed them for the performance, which I do think it's on him as well. SK Gaming was the team that we predicted would be at the bottom of the standings at the beginning of the split, looking at it all. And Excel is middle of the pack. I thought Excel would be doing a little bit better this time around. I think that they would be in the position that a Mad Lions or a Misfits were at this point. But I'm pleasantly surprised by Misfits and Mad Lions. They've been playing a lot of good games.
Well, definitely surprising was Febiven leaving Schalke. Maybe we can take a look at Febiven's tweet here that basically set the steamroll here. We have talked about it a lot, basically announcing on Twitter that he's stepping down. He's not happy with the direction the team is going. First of all, we know that Febiven has a big personality, right? So are we surprised by the way this was announced at all, Darren?
No. Oh, no, just straight up no.
What happens next? Does Febiven go to another team? Does he go to another region? What happens?
Man, I don't know. The big personality thing is so on the nose. Like, because of the way that it happened, it's not surprising. Because of what happened afterwards is a little bit more surprising, where Inox helps Schalke beat G2 Esports. But I think overall, like, no, not surprising at all. His big personality must have taken over, must have been putting down on the team, must have been doing something in there that really was not sitting well with Schalke.
And here's Febiven's tweet right here. My 7+ year League of Legends career, I always play to win and be competitive. As of now, at least current roster doesn't fit this principle. Schalke is unable/unwilling to make changes to fit this goal. So we mutually agreed that I step down until and if they are willing to do so. I mean,
they're clearly willing to do so.
A sliver of a door open, but I'm pretty sure that that door is never going to be walked through again.
No.
Yeah, and honestly, like, it's not like teams were champing at the bit to get Febiven this offseason anyway. I felt like this was the one chance he was going to get on any team in Schalke. And look, like, we talked about this in depth the moment that we found out that he was signed in free agency. He is not suited for this meta. This is not a meta of lane bullies like Caitlyn and Lucian, where he used to dominate people in the LCS, in the EU LCS. Yeah. And most of the AD carries playing in the LEC right now did not play in the EU LCS prior either. I would say the young talent that's come in is really good, people like Upset, and others are considerably better too, right? Like, there are a few very long tenured faces like Reckless, who he played against once upon a time. So I do think, like, this was probably his last chance. The guy, like, unfortunate story of being conscripted and being in the Greek military. And, like, yeah, but even on the way right before he got conscripted, things weren't going too swell. He had the 2016 Worlds performance with H2K where they made it pretty far. But then after that, it was a little bit of a slippery slope down. And I think that looking at this overall, like, it's unfortunate, but this is probably his last shot.
Thanks very much for joining us here on the Rift Rewind. This is a weekly ESPN League of Legends show every single Monday night. We are live on Twitch, the ESPN app, on YouTube, and on Twitter. You watching out there have been very patient. Yes, we do have some big news to break, and to break that news, I'm going to send it to Los Angeles right now to Tyler and Emily. Take it away.
So for years, there's always been discussion about this player, the greatest player of all time, Faker. Would he ever wear a different jersey? There's been rumors of blank checks being thrown around, Chinese millionaires wanting him. Those discussions end today. ESPN can announce that Faker has re-signed to T1 for 3 years, the maximum amount that Riot allows contracts to be. Along with that, though, Faker is now a part owner of T1 Entertainment and Sports. Included in that deal, they've discussed in their negotiations when Faker decides to retire in 3, 5, 10, 20 years, whenever he hangs up his mouse and keyboard, he will move to a leadership position inside the company. Faker, T1, it's the past, it's the present, and the near and distant future. Faker is T1, and we have a package from T1 sharing the news.
신인으로 시작해서 제가 8년 차가 이제 되었는데 처음이나 지금이나 사실 저는 크게 바뀐 게 있나 이렇게 생각을 해요. 왜냐하면 뭐 예전이나 지금이나 저는 이기고 싶은 마음은 그대로인 것 같고 뭐 그냥 게임이 저는 좋아했기 때문에 그냥 자연스럽게 우승을 했던 것 같은데 열정이 가장 중요했던 것 같습니다. T1 하면은 가장 떠오르는 거는 역시 최고의 팀이라는 타이틀이 가장 저는 떠오르는데 더 잘할 수 있을 거라는 믿음이 지금 확실히 있는 것 같아요.
Hi guys. Thank you for sharing and always love me.
El mejor jugador del mundo, la auténtica leyenda, Faker!
우승을 많이 하는 게 목표라고 언제나 말씀드리지만 그것보다는 잘하는 모습 보여드리고 싶죠. 그냥 최대한 잘해서 페이커답게
It's kind of surreal. I mean, I got into esports about, 12, 13 years ago through SK Telecom T1 in StarCraft. I wrote about Faker in his early years, the spring season 2013. I've written thousands of features on the man. I've followed him from his beginning to now here. I've seen him grow, and now he's a part owner of one of the biggest esports organizations in the world. And essentially, for all intents and purposes, this is a lifetime contract. No more rumors, no more discussion, no more blank checks. Faker is there to stay on T1. What's your reaction, Emily?
So I'm not surprised. I think it's really good news. I think that I'm not at all surprised because Faker has kind of always made it abundantly clear that T1 is his home, right? That's where he started. That's where he wants to stay. I think that this is really interesting to me for a lot of reasons that maybe a lot of esports fans might not care about, but the ownership thing is super interesting to me. I do want to see how many teams end up going that route, considering how I'm not going to say it's like super controversial, but I know people were kind of side-eyeing the Bjergsen part ownership with TSM, with him also being a player and part owner of the team. So I think from an outside business perspective, that's very interesting to me. And I think he already had like a really large voice on these teams, right, in terms of who was getting on the roster, that kind of thing. When I see these 3-year contracts, it reminds me a bit of, and obviously Ruler is not a part owner of Gen.G, but it reminds me a lot of what Gen.G really wanted to do with their 3-year Ruler contract, which is like a straight shot across the bow, like, this is our guy, this is what we want to do with this team, we want to build it around this specific person, and obviously Faker is the player to build that around. But yeah, now I think we're gonna head back to Bristol with their thoughts on Tyler's breaking news regarding Faker.
Give us your hot takes, Jacob.
I don't think there are any hot takes here because I think that especially in chat, a lot of people expected this to happen. I think that a lot of people assumed that Faker already had some sort of equity in T1, but that is not the case. This is breaking news that he acquired this in the latest deal. It is a 3-year term, and now he's a part owner of T1 Entertainment and Sports, which really sets him up for life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we said this with Bjergsen as well. If you own 1% of one of these organizations, you're a millionaire overnight. And so if he was not already a millionaire already, which I'm pretty sure he was, he definitely is now. And I think that overall, like, this is the best decision for both Faker and also the best decision for T1. T1's brand as SK Telecom T1 previously was very much Faker-centric, right? He is the franchise player. And for him, too, like, he has built such and established such a legacy and brand in South Korea in general. The man has been all over merchandising, and like I think at one point he was on a Coke can, if I'm not mistaken. like the guy is South Korean.
He's wearing Nike now.
Yeah, I mean, like he is South Korean esports for all intents and purposes. So like I am not surprised to see that this is the case. And frankly, like it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense for both parties here for him to continue. And also, this is why like the only other place that would ever make sense for Faker to play ever would have been China, because China has such a huge interest in esports similar to South Korea. But Faker coming to NA or Faker going to EU never made sense. His profile would have gone down significantly. Staying in Korea, signing a contract that entitles him to millions of dollars worth of incentives, that's a good thing.
Well, I think some people out there are a little upset that
some people
Faker may not win Worlds for NA, on an NA team, I should say. But here's a quote from Faker regarding the news that was just dropped here. I'm excited to continue playing for T1, and I'm thankful for all the fans around the world who have supported me all these years. I am honored to become a part owner of T1 and look forward to working with the leadership team beyond my playing career. I love this team, and I'm proud to help mold the future of this organization.
Yeah, right. This is an organization that's in flux. They established T1, which is a different entity from SK Telecom T1. SK Telecom is a part owner of T1, but also Comcast Spectacor, which is one of the biggest telecommunication companies in all of North America. They also own the Philadelphia Flyers, the hockey team, and the Philadelphia Fusion, the Overwatch League team, and they are expanding with outside of that, both with T1 and otherwise.
What a very successful homestand weekend this past week.
But overall, I would say like Faker is now financially and business tied with people who are very smart, both in South Korea and in North America, in ways that will benefit him for the rest of his life. This is a very good decision for him, and I don't think that there would be anyone that would argue otherwise, except maybe Darren.
No, I don't argue. This is awful for esports. No, this is great. Number one, Faker is an icon. He's legendary. He's almost going to rise to mythological status at some point.
Michael Jordan of esports, says ESPN Alerts.
It is the Michael Jordan of esports, and he will continue to be so. But even beyond that, this is very akin to like John Elway getting into the Denver Broncos organization after he was playing, or Magic Johnson now getting into
and
the Lakers.
Bjergsen getting equity.
And Bjergsen getting equity. This is setting a really interesting precedent that I think is an awesome trend, because it used to be when you were a player, you were just a player, and then you moved on. Then the life cycle of an esports pro went from player to like analyst, player to coach, player to streamer, player to now part owner, and now we're seeing these organizations really buy in to their single players or around a single player, and that is great to see, for the sole reason that people believe that esports will be here long after Faker's done playing.
Sure. I will say this, and please thank you, chat, for letting me have one more boomer reference here back to traditional sports. It's nice to see loyalty. That is one thing that I do want to mention here, is that Faker being on one team for his entire career and setting himself up after his playing career is over, it's nice to see loyalty because that often does not exist, whether it's in esports, whether it's in traditional sport, any form of competition. Loyalty is at a premium. So for Faker and T1 to show mutually this kind of agreement, this kind of loyalty to each other is rare and a breath of fresh air and very welcome, I would say.
And I also just want to say the LCK is the one league of the 4 major leagues, the LCS, the LEC, the LPL, and the LCK. They are the one league that is not yet franchised, and there's a resounding feeling across the entire league that it will be sooner than later. And obviously T1 is one of those organizations, given the legacy, but also given what I mentioned earlier, the ownership structure. They are someone that seems like a shoe-in to be a franchise partner in the LCK. And as long as League of Legends continues to be the most popular multiplayer game in the world, then Korea's going to continue to eat it up, and this is going to continue to be a big thing for him. So, like, that's the next step in the evolution
I love
for
it.
them.
I love it. It just makes me happy. He deserves it.
Faker continues to be on T1. T1 continue to be among the top teams in the LCK, but the very top team is Dragon X. Chovy leads the way in KDA with 10.3 right now as we are early into the LCK season. Going back to Los Angeles now, Tyler and Emily, give us your LCK thoughts as we stand right now.
Yeah, so Dragon X, this is a team that both you and I pegged as going to be one of our top teams. Currently, they are at the top of the standings in the LCK, so let's talk about them a bit. I actually want to talk about Chovy, and this is because Chovy was a player that I actually was a lot more critical of than I want to say everyone last year, where I was like, he is, this kind of peerless laner, but he focuses on the 1v1 matchup too much. I do think, despite the fact that people think Tarzan is terrible now, I think Tarzan covered a lot for him in terms of ward placement, and they always put him in these favorable matchups, and he was really good at holding that mid lane and then grouping later for their 5v5 fights that they were really famous for. But I think one of the things he was always missing was that kind of like, what are you going to do outside of your lane state, right? And this year, it's kind of started at Worlds with Griffin and some of the champion choices they had him on, which I might not have necessarily agreed with for Griffin at the time, but I thought they were interesting for Chovy because it meant he was affecting side lanes a lot more. And now, lo and behold, we see a Chovy who is obviously still willing to play for the 1v1 because he's just insanely strong mechanically. But we also see him paired with a rookie jungler in Pioshik, and they're both performing really, really well. And one of the things I absolutely have loved to see from Chovy is the fact that he's picking more champions and it can affect side lanes. I know people hated the Ziggs pick, but Ziggs is great for that. I actually think Ziggs is kind of strong right now. What do you think of Chovy's kind of evolution? Because you were always a huge Chovy fan.
I was always, like last year, many debates in Slack chat about, is Chovy the MVP? Is he one of the best mid laners? I was always like, yes, he's a prodigious
I said Tarzan was the MVP.
You said he was, and you even thought Viper was the better player on Griffin for...
I said he was more flexible.
Yes. Well,
which I still stand by.
True, but I think Chovy has grown. I think people, looking at Worlds last year, it was really awkward, right? In the quarterfinal, he was playing these tanks, and everyone was like, they were trying to stop, the pressure of rookie in the mid lane. They were
trying to go Doinby. They were going full Doinby. Doinby does everything, and people try to copy him. We had Jensen going the Rise Doinby build. Don't do that ever again, by the way. But yeah, I think we saw Chovy. I think we saw Griffin reacting to that and trying to affect side lanes.
But this year we see him playing Ornn, and he looks more comfortable, and he looks more comfortable around this team. Maybe it's him being more of a veteran now. He has more of a leadership role. Obviously, back in Griffin days, it was the Tarzan team. He was the mastermind with the 4 puppets. Where now, I think, for Dragon X, it's much more of Chovy and Deft as the leaders, and then he has these 3 young, hopefully prodigial talents around him. The player that I want to talk about, though, I think that is been their MVP so far is Kira. I think he's been really, really good through the first few games of the season. He's played a multitude of champions, and he's come up big in moments where you look at him and you're like, this guy isn't a rookie. He doesn't feel like a rookie type player. He looks more experienced than Effort a lot of the time, and Effort's been playing for about a year now. So I just really want to talk about Kira and just him and Deft have one of the better bot lanes in South Korea right now.
Yeah, Keria has really impressed me. Pioshik, you know me, I'm always looking at rookie junglers, and I really like a lot of things that I've seen from Pioshik. Now we're going to head back to Bristol for their thoughts.
Chovy's great. He's the best.
All right, we're going to shift gears there, and there's the big news, of course. Faker, 3-year extension, equity in T1. Heard it here first on the Rift Rewind and ESPN League of Legends show. Tonight, Monday Night League.
Woo!
Yeah, I know why you're happy, because you're on like this undefeated prediction streak.
4-0, baby.
He really needs like theme music and pyro, and like you're going to get that soon enough, I'm sure.
Needs a little bit of humble soup at the end of it all.
Oh, yeah, well, when you go 4-0 in your predictions.
Hey, I've not been on the show to be able to go 4-0. Thank you. I went 2-0 the first week.
No, you didn't.
So we have FlyQuest taking on 100 Thieves, Evil Geniuses taking on C9. The Riot Desk will be joining us right now to break both matchups down. Tigress, over to you.
Thank you so much, Arda. We are indeed gearing up for Monday Night League. Prolly and Mark Z here once again to preview the matches coming up. First up, it is going to be FlyQuest and 100 Thieves, which is a little harder, I think, to kind of think of how to predict for these matches to go, considering how muddled things are in the middle of the pack of the league.
Yeah, this is a really hard matchup, mostly because, yeah, both teams, they don't have a strong identity yet. They don't have one person they play around. So they're still kind of learning how to play the game and figuring out, like, how they want to win. So both of them have a lot of, like, sloppy wins and sloppy losses. Neither of them are, like, really definitive in how they play yet.
That's the tough thing, too, is when you're having these kind of fluctuations on an individual level as well. Viper has had moments where he solo wins the game on Riven and then solo loses the game on Mordekaiser. And it can be hard to find this play style that you're hoping to when you're not performing consistently individually to then build, on top of from there. And so FlyQuest, for me, a lot of what I'm looking for them is a little bit more of that consistency. I think 100 Thieves is closer to being at the same level. Someday usually does the same things. Meteos, Cody, they're pretty consistent.
I need to see some plays where I'm like, all right, this is like a 100 Thieves play. Like, I can see them doing this at a certain point, right? Like, Dignitas had that last year.
Yeah.
Clutch had it last year, where you knew what they were going to be doing at 10 minutes. I want to see that from these teams where, like, I know how they're going to play, and I can see it happen.
With both of these teams kind of trying to find their identity and who exactly they want to play around, Mark Z, you just mentioned that in the top lane, Someday has a bit more consistency when gearing up if you're comparing that to Viper. So, Prolly, do you think that the top lane in this time when they're trying to find identity could be a place to really see a distinguishment between the two teams?
I mean, for this matchup, I'd say yes, mostly because, yeah, what Mark said about Viper. I think a top laner needs to be really solid, and that's kind of what Viper hasn't shown yet. He's been, like, really wishy-washy. So in this matchup, I think it could be a potential play for 100 Thieves to be like, all right, Someday's our guy. He can carry us to victory because of the mismatch in top lane. However, the meta isn't super strong favored towards the top lane, so it'd be kind of hard to pull it off right now.
Well, and also worth noting on the side of FlyQuest, the synergy between mid and jungle has really come up in some of their wins. So if you're looking over at 100 Thieves, Mark Z, and maybe some difficulties in the mid lane matchup there?
Yeah, I mean, PoE has actually been very good this split, much better than I think a lot of people were expecting, especially because he's not just playing standard mages. We have seen the rumble out of him a couple times now, things that are more new, whereas before he's like, Orianna, and I'll build Nashers, and give me a Victor. So it is nice to see him branching out, and I think Ryoma has been better than people thought, but it is on a fairly limited champion pool. If he's not on Zoe, I suddenly get very suspect. Syndra, I think I could trust him on. Not on Ryze, some of those.
Yet.
So I am a little bit concerned in the mid lane matchup. If they are pushed down their pools a little bit, I think PoE will have much more to reach for.
So before we move on to the second match, as far as maybe the one thing that you're looking out for most as a either winning thing to cling on to, a player to watch for match number one?
For match number one, I mean, I'm really curious how the drafts are going to play out. I think that's going to kind of tell us what identity they're going for because, yeah, again, this is the rush for playoffs. These are both teams that want to be in playoffs, so whoever wins this is going to it's going to really affect the standings. So I'm really going to kind of watch the draft and see where they're putting their priority on, who's going to get the counter pick, who's going to, like, be built up, who's going to be playing on weak side. So I can kind of see, like, what's their, like, a strategy against each other.
Mark?
Santorin on Karthus. We saw it a little bit last year. I would love to see him be the guy to bring it back out in North America.
And Karthus, I know we're going to be talking about that specifically later once Monday Night League actually kicks off. Let's go ahead and talk about our second matchup. We were speaking a lot about individual just positions and kind of these individual matchups. Well, what better way to lead our discussion, EG and C9 in the jungle? We've got two very familiar with one another.
Yeah, I think we talked about identities a little bit. I think EG has an identity. It's Jizuke's kind of a crazy player, and you got to really watch what he's doing.
Is that an identity?
I think that's their identity right now.
He's crazy.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a good or bad one, right?
That's
it's
true.
just
It is an
how the
identity,
style of
yes.
the team plays. I think that's where we can see a lot in EG is like that's the guy who's going to like pop off or the one who opposite of pops, deflates, I guess.
Pop in?
Pop in?
Pop off? Pop
Yeah.
out?
In, outside.
One of those
pops.
directions, yeah.
Yeah, whereas on the flip
places.
side, Cloud9, literally anyone can carry. And they have all carried at different points in this season already. So that's where I think EG is really scary, or is very tough for EG, is you have to figure out where you want to try and find an advantage. And there's no clear one. Like you said, jungle's maybe the closest. And everyone keeps waiting for Blabber to have a bad game, but it just hasn't happened yet. And even when they went 0-2 in a mid-jungle skirmish versus TSM, they instantly bounced right back. And that was not what I was expecting out of him.
And for Blabber in particular, it was an interview he had with Ovely on the broadcast, I believe it was during the last weekend, where he was saying how important it was for him to start on a team this season and really showcase that. Do you think he has put any additional pressure on himself, being that this particular matchup is going against Svenskeren?
I think you always have to just a little bit, even if you don't mean to. You know, like there's just
maybe it's
that,
like a subconscious thing.
There's
If you
just-
asked him, he would say no. That's what I'm trying to think is like, would he actually admit to it? Like, no way.
C9 are kind of memers. They
little
might just be like, yeah, I got to beat that guy to show I was worth it. You know, like they might have that kind of attitude.
I don't know, but Blabber, yeah, he's went from a player who is like kind of inconsistent, where you could kind of point to him as like you can exploit this, but since he's joined C9, yeah, I think he's just done almost everything right. So playing against Svenskeren, I'm sure he's like in the form he wants to be. So I bet this is like his favorite time to play against him.
Right. And last thing, we are only a couple games away from the first round of matches. C9, likelihood of the 9-0.
100%.
100%? Oh no, I think you just ruined it. Yeah, I kind of want to hold my tongue because I feel like whatever I say, the opposite's going to happen.
It's CLG and EG, 100%, right?
Yeah, like, oh, the CLG, this is the last place team. This is the time for them
1
to
versus
beat.
10,
Yeah, time for them to like look like a really good team for one game just to ruin everyone's prediction.
Well, for now, we are going to remain at 100% neutrality at the desk as we gear up for Monday Night League. So, Arda, back to you in the gang.
Thank you very much, Tigress. Thank you. Monday Night League desk, of course, that's going to start a little bit later on. But why don't we give our own predictions, our own thoughts? Let's start with FlyQuest and 100 Thieves. I hate going against FlyQuest because I love what they stand for. I love the Go Green initiative. I love them planting trees. I want them to maximize the output such that there are more trees planted. But they fall, in my opinion, within that block of teams where it's really unpredictable. You can't really tell who's going to win against in that mid-range of teams that 100 Thieves falls in as well. And that's why I'm saying, you know, I feel like 100 Thieves might have an edge here in this one. Jacob, agree, disagree?
I disagree. I still believe in FlyQuest. I think that when they're at their peak, when they're really, really good, that they play among the best in the league. Maybe not to the Cloud9 level, but certainly right there in that sort of like bottom, the 2 through 4 shuffle. I put a lot of stock into Ignar. I still think that he's really great as a player. I would point to in this matchup, Power of Evil being the one that's got to make it work, right? Power of Evil and Ryoma is a great matchup, and I think that overall, looking at it, that Power of Evil is the better mid laner. He's more experienced in clutch moments. He played on that Misfits team with Ignar that was so good so many years ago. I don't know. I give the edge to FlyQuest here, but I know that I am in. We're a split, divided desk here, I think, across everyone on our broadcast at least. So
I will mention this, Darren. FlyQuest is in our chat right now. They said 100 trees for 100 thieves. But since people have noticed that, I think a lot of people are giving FlyQuest predictions in the chat because they are there. So it's like, hey, FlyQuest is
But Twitter did not.
Our Twitter
thread.
poll said a little bit differently. Darren, who are you picking in this one?
FlyQuest.
Yes.
I like FlyQuest on this. Monday Night League alluded to it. You alluded to it a little bit. We've all kind of alluded to it, where you don't quite know what you're going to get with either FlyQuest or 100 Thieves. Which one's going to show up on the day? I have a little bit more faith, I suppose, in Power of Evil over Ryoma, and I have a lot of faith in Wild Turtle and Ignar to take over a bot lane with, either a roam from Power of Evil or some sort of TP pressure from Viper. Whatever it is, I believe in that squad. If they can keep Viper neutral, get Power of Evil moving, and Ignar and Wild Turtle can play their aggressive playstyle, and Ignar is able to roam and make some really great roams to mid lane, I really think that they could take over the 100 Thieves game. we're either going to get something really close and a bloodbath, or one team's going to like just snowball over the other. I don't see this being like a back and forth affair.
Yeah, I mean, Power of Evil brought the faith from CLG to FlyQuest with him, and that's why they're so garbage now. But I think that now I still believe in FlyQuest. Again, I know that when we polled our staff, it was a little bit different. Everybody was a little split, but I do think that FlyQuest is the better team here. But I actually do think it will be pretty close. I think it will be a little bit of a bloodbath. I do not think it will be a steamroll.
I want to go to Los Angeles now. Tyler and Emily, why don't you give us your thoughts on FlyQuest taking on 100 Thieves? Just give us your thoughts on Monday Night League matchups in general.
Yeah, so I picked FlyQuest for the first matchup. I think it's because, and again, like I actually agree with what our Bristol desk was saying in that it could go either way. Like I won't be shocked if either team wins. But when I look at FlyQuest, I do think they make a lot of mistakes early. But they have kind of a really interesting team dynamic and identity that I don't see from 100 Thieves yet. And they could sort that out like come the end of the split. But in FlyQuest, I see a team that really does actually want to be aggressive. They have a lot of really great, smart initiators on that team. And most of their players want to go all in, right? And that's why you do see a lot of snowball-y type matchups, even in 1v1s and 2v2s across the map, where someone will go in and it might not have been the best idea. I think, despite the fact that TSM made a lot of mistakes in the mid game, I think that the ability to kind of regroup and recover, obviously they had the Orin, so they were probably just kind of waiting for that to scale up and just become unkillable. But I think when I look at FlyQuest, I see a team that just has a little bit stronger of a team identity right now. But I know you picked 100 Thieves, so.
Yeah. Well, I actually agree with everything you said. I went back and forth when I was making my prediction. Like FlyQuest, 100 Thieves, FlyQuest, 100 Thieves. I do think FlyQuest does have a better identity right now that actually know what they want to do, what style they want to play. The reason why I'm going with 100 Thieves is because I just have this gut feeling that it seems like every other game Someday pops off. It feels like Someday has a really amazing game where he's the best player in LCS, then he sucks. Then he's the best player in the LCS, then he has a down game. His last game was a down game. I expect Someday to step up tonight. He just seems like a player who, whenever he has a bad game, he doesn't let himself have two bad games. I don't think I've seen many times in his career where he's had two bad games in a row. So I believe in Someday. I hope he can pop off tonight. If he can get that victory in the top lane over Viper, I feel like the top side of 100 Thieves is a bit stronger than FlyQuest. It's really going to come down to if Ryomic can actually withstand in the middle. I like Meteor
It depends.
Someday.
It depends.
Meteor Someday.
I like the Viper Santorin top jungle 2v2, but we will see. And now back to Bristol for the rest of your thoughts on Monday Night League.
Well, I think we're waiting for one thought here as we move on to EG taking on C9. Spoiler alert, everyone but one person is predicting C9 to win this one. Can you guess who predicted Evil Geniuses?
Tyler! That's me. Evil Geniuses.
Oh, this is
Contrarian.
all you. Go,
all
please.
over Cloud9. 4 deaths for Sven, by the way. He's gonna just lose out that KDA. Now y'all are thinking I'm crazy. And I am. I'm Darren the Contrarian, so you should have seen this coming. But here's my keys to victory for Evil Geniuses. Here's how I think, if I was a coach, how I would set it up. Force Blabber onto something other than Lee Sin, Elise, and Gragas. Now, we know Blabber's an amazing jungler. He's got a deep, deep jungle pool, but he's only been on the LCS stage with Lee Sin, Elise, and Gragas. Pick something for Sven that can cause a lot of pressure and a lot of problems on the other side's jungle, plus pressure in either lane that you pick. Maybe give him a Lee Sin, put him on a Jarvan, maybe an Olaf for some duels. But let's see how Blabber is when he's on something other than Lee Sin, Elise, and Gragas. Try it. Why not? Let's see what happens. The other one, unlock Jizuke. No more Orianna. We saw what he can do with LeBlanc on this other game earlier this weekend. He was an absolute monster. Jizuke has a problem with his positioning. If you put him on a champion that allows him to rewind time a little bit, like a LeBlanc, or maybe, a Tristana who's got a nice jump, which he has played before in the mid lane, I think that you're gonna have a lot more success. Let him run wild. Unlock the Jizuke. Hashtag unlock the Jizuke. Those are my keys to victory. Keep Niski from roaming. keep Niski in the mid lane. Get pressure to push that lane and keep Niski there. Otherwise, he's going to lose out on a lot.
All right, I'll make you a promise right here. I will make this happen, right? In the event that you are correct and Evil Geniuses beats Cloud9 tonight, I will ensure that this production has a trumpet that plays every single time we throw to your predictions as Darren the Contrarian.
Why? I can do that myself.
No, we will have a studio trumpet. We had a wolf bomb. We had a wolf howl at one point.
I honestly thought he was going to take out his phone and press like some song.
Well, actually, I want that. Like I want you every time to bring out your phone and
then play Up to My Lav.
Chad is a little nervous, I will say. M. Breyer, who's a regular in our chat, says he's been right the last 2 weeks, which scares me.
4-0 and 2-0 in my upset predictions.
All right, well, I think you will be wrong this week because I think Cloud9 is on a roll. Put some butter on it, man. I do think that, to your point, that Jizuke is the Italian stallion, and he is one killer of a mid laner when he's on, but also he's off pretty frequently.
Don't put him on Orianna.
We saw a lot of that last season with Team Vitality, right? Like, he was off his game, but this season before was really good. He's a very inconsistent player, and I think that Cloud9, of all teams right now, are very good at breaking down inconsistencies. So I will give Cloud9 the edge, along with the rest of our panel here. But, I mean, I get why Chad is nervous, because Evil Geniuses obviously
Well, Chad is nervous. I wonder if Los Angeles shares the same sentiment. Tyler, Emily, do you agree with Darren the Contrarian?
I think it's a terrible idea to give Darren a trumpet sound. I
agree.
I do not agree with him. I picked C9.
I picked C9 because I watch League of Legends, and I actually know that.
Wow.
No, but there's.
I don't disagree.
No, it's C9.
I mean, I think if you want an actual analytical reason, I think C9 just have a much more cohesive idea of how they want to play the game, and EG have been really inconsistent.
But if Darren's right, we will praise you.
We'll give him the trumpet.
Contrarian Darren.
I don't know how many more times I need to be right.
Next week.
Cloud9, save our ears.
Please save us.
Every show, every league needs a heel, and we have one in Darren Kwilinski.
Time
Let's
to
see
play
what the
the
predictions
game.
are from Twitter and from everyone else as well. We're going to bring it up right now. By the way, Los Angeles, Tyler, Emily, thank you very much for joining us. They will be with us next week as well. It will be a rotating cast, by the way, here on the Rift Rewind and ESPN League of Legends show. And so you will see a lot of the familiar faces. You'll see a lot of different faces and some guests as well on this show. Let's go to the predictions. Let's show you the board right now, including Twitter, what Twitter said between these two matchups. Oh, there you go. You're the only one. What a shock, Darren. Evil Geniuses, just that logo right there. Nicole LaPointe Jameson is very happy, but everyone else thinks you're trolling.
Cool looking good logo. I'm not trolling. I believe in Evil Geniuses. I said at the start, I think Evil Geniuses.
We're even on the FlyQuest 100 Thieves, though. Twitter.
I know, we're a divided panel. We're a divided panel.
We are.
That's the closer matchup.
By the way, that Tyler Erzberger hair right there, that's some great set cosplay.
Didn't he make a bet on the first show? I'm pretty sure he did with Ovalie.
We're going to have to bring Ovalie back to, what was it, shave his head or dye his hair or something.
Yeah, it was.
It's going to happen because it was Revolving John's son, and as much as I appreciate him being the only rookie in the LCS, I'm pretty sure Tyler's losing that bet.
He said he was going to be the MVP.
Tyler's losing that bet. Tyler's losing that bet. Sven has a word.
Yes. I mean, several people have a word, including everyone on the Cloud9 team.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps things up for us here on the Rift Rewind and ESPN League of Legends show. We have just enough time in honor of President's Day here in the United States. It got me thinking, of course, presidents of the United States, Mount Rushmore. If you were to throw some names on who would be on the League of Legends competitive Mount Rushmore, Faker's probably the obvious answer here, but who would you put? Pick 4 players or 4 figures in League of Legends competitive history that you would put on the Mount Rushmore. And chat, please feel free to chime in here as well. Maybe we'll continue the conversation after we're off the air. What would you guys say?
I mean, Faker is the obvious one. The other, I think, would be Uzi. Fantastic player overall. I think Mata deserves a nod on this as well, considering how well he's done over the years in various different teams. World champion as well. And then it's kind of hard, for me at least, to pick the final player, because there's been so many different eras of players who are really there and very consistent. I don't know. I don't know what our criteria necessarily for this is. I mean, I think if we want to
who would belong on a Mount Rushmore?
Faker, Xpeke.
You think Xpeke over
Sneaky, and Reckless.
M. Breyer
so you would not put Uzi on there?
No.
That's interesting. That's why we have this debate.
How many World's Finals has he
gotten
been
there?
to?
Honestly,
He's been in a lot, actually.
World's Finals?
Yes, he was in 2014. Royal has also advanced, I believe, more than that too. They were.
I think he was just in that one. Well, let me put it this way: how many World Championships has he won?
He has not won a World Championship.
There we go.
But neither is Xpeke and
or
neither
Sneaky. Is that a requirement?
Xpeke has won one.
Yeah, he did.
Xpeke has won one.
Is winning
Fnatic.
a World Championship a requirement to be on the Mount Rushmore?
No, because you have Dan Marino didn't win a Super Bowl. He's in a.
But Dan Marino wouldn't be on the NFL Mount Rushmore, would he?
Well, isn't he?
That's the whole point of the
he in the Hall of Fame?
But coming back to League of Legends,
I don't know
is a World Championship a requirement?
Reckless would definitely qualify for like the fourth person on there. I don't know the answer to who the fourth person is. It could be Xpeke, but I do think Reckless deserves a little bit of a nod.
Faker, Xpeke, I mean, he's one of the OGs, man.
I think Uzi
Evil
I
Jacob
is
Wolf
there.
says Faker, Uzi I, Perks, and Doublelift. Easy choice. Hey, you agree or disagree? Let us know in the chat. Thank you very much for joining us wherever you watched us. We will be back Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the next episode of the Rift Rewind. Enjoy Monday Night League.